Awesome, buddy. Well, yeah, no, thanks, man. This is like it's kind of weird. It's like, you coming on here and me getting to chat with you. It's almost kind of like a weird bucket list in my youth of just like getting to chat with, one of the guys from Sum 41. So this is sweet, man. I really appreciate this.
Oh, awesome. Well, yeah, yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course, dude. Yeah, and man, like, I got a lot I want to talk about with you, but I guess, with because you guys have had a long history, and I'm kind of curious with the early beginnings. So you guys grew up in, it was Ajax, right? That
Yeah.
like what was it like growing up there?
Well, it was small, and the population at the time, I believe, was about 40,000 people. When I moved there, I was about four, and it was basically south, so we're on Lake Ontario, and everything kind of north of where I lived was all fields, and eventually that kind of turned into houses and apartment buildings and malls and stuff. But there was in Ajax, there was really nothing to do. There's no mall. When we grew up, and there was no movie theater. There was no anything. There was like eventually when we were teens, there was like one pub up the street from us.
Oh,
Um, but really wasn't anything to do. And I think that's why we all like individually started playing music, was because
gotcha.
we found grunge music and Nirvana came along and punk music came along. And so we were like, wow, that's really cool. And that sounds like we could maybe do that too, because it sounded not easy, but it sounded simple enough where you could learn how to do it. And
Gotcha.
eventually, Ajax now, if you went through Ajax, it's 120,000 people. And
Oh, wow.
there's a movie theater, and there's lots of shopping, and there's restaurants, and there's bars. But at the time in the 80s, there was nothing really. And there was one high school, and there was another high school that came along where Sum 41, like we all went, Derek, Dave, and I, and Steve. And it was only around for about 8 years, and then it was no longer. So when you talk about our high school in Ajax, everyone's like, "I've never heard of that place," because it just came and went, and now it's like a elementary Catholic school. Yeah, it was very small, and so it was just there was a lot of bands though. For some reason in Ajax, there was a ton of bands starting
Hmm.
their own thing because I guess out of boredom.
Just nothing else to do, eh?
I think so. Yeah, there was nothing else to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like really before music, like was it just the typical like you just hang out with your friends, cause some shit kind of situation?
Well, we all kind of started music at early ages, like 13, kind of
Okay, yeah.
high school. So up until that point, you're in elementary school. So you're not really causing too much shit.
Yeah.
I
Typical
remember,
just hanging out with friends, doing whatever, right?
yeah. And I mean, even going into high school, as I started playing bass and simultaneously when I didn't even know Derek and Dave and Steve, we all were coming into the high school and we were going to meet. But at that point, like drugs were starting to get involved. Like, I remember the summer of going into high school, I did hash for the first time. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
it's like small town stuff like that. Like, all of a sudden weed and hash and all that stuff gets introduced to you, and you're like, fuck, this is amazing. I'm just going to do this forever.
Well,
And
that's the funny thing about small towns too that people say, right? It's like another thing is like with like drugs, obviously you kind of get into it. And with small towns, what they say is, it's because there's nothing to do. It's kind of boring, right?
I mean, you could say that, but then you look at the big cities and drugs are,
Way worse, yeah.
yeah. But
True
yeah, I
enough, yeah.
think, I think in the small towns, like for us, when I was in my first band before Sum 41, we wouldn't even practice if we didn't have weed. It came to a point
Oh,
where,
really?
yeah, it came to a point where like, if we don't have weed, then what's the point? Why are we going to play?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
boring. Um,
Did you ever
so
cancel any practices then?
Oh, many a practices got canceled. Many a practices were canceled of just driving around Ajax, calling people to see if we could find weed so we could eventually practice. before
Gotcha.
his parents got home.
Oh, that's funny. Was it yeah, typical, like was it just a would you practice in like a basement garage?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, basement. Our original, like our my first drummer before I was in Sum 41. We were a three piece and we were kind of a grunge band. And his name was Matt, and his dad is a retired police officer, and his mom didn't work. She allowed us to practice in the basement, and he went on to drum for Avril.
Oh,
Like
really?
he was Avril's first drummer for the first two records.
Oh,
Matt
cool.
Matt Brand. And so, but it's funny because we used to smoke weed in the basement while we practiced, but his dad was a cop. And later on in life, we would talk about it. He's like, we thought at the time we were pulling some wool over his eyes, like, oh my God, I can't believe he doesn't know. But later
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
when we were adults, he was like, oh, fuck you guys. Of course I knew. I was a police officer. You could smell it
Yeah.
coming through so everything. But he just, he was cool about it. And he was, the way I would probably be with kids like that is like he just knew where we were, and he knew we were not in a park smoking weed somewhere. And, we
Yeah,
were safe. We were just
exactly.
having fun.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
weed's not that big of a deal anyway, as we know now.
That's true. As we know now, yes. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I'd probably handle with my son the kind of same thing too. As long as I like, you want to hang out, do it here, sure. Or like, as long as I know where you are.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of the way it was. Even when I went to parties, my parents would give me alcohol sometimes, and drop me off somewhere, and then come pick me up when I was 14 or 15. They knew
Yeah.
I was going to drink. They knew. So it was kind of like, well, I'm going to give you a couple beers. I know where you are, and I'm going to come pick you back up from that place. And that's kind of the responsible way to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And like, did you like growing up, did you find, because I have people who are, they do a lot more weed than they do drinking, or it's the other way. Were you kind of one way or the other, or was it kind of just a mix when you were growing up partying and stuff?
We through my teenage years, weed was pretty big for me. Probably more than drinking, but drinking was harder because you couldn't get it because we were underage.
True enough. Yeah.
Weed, you could go to a drug dealer.
Yeah, fair.
Alcohol, you had to go find someone that was 19, and you had to, try. So yeah, weed was probably the biggest thing in your teenage years, until we turned 19, and then alcohol became the major thing for us, and as did other things. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, through the teenage years, it was really weed a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Ontario, like, yeah, with it being 19, because I've had George Strombolopoulos on here and Rick Campanelli, and I remember George was saying in Ontario, he's like, oh yeah, he's like the drinking thing in Ontario is so strict, like probably more than any other province. So it'd probably like be way harder to like even try and do that.
It was. I did have a sister that was 4 years older than me, so that kind of helped.
Nice.
It was pretty open. And then my best friend, who was the singer of my first band, he was 2 years older than us. So it
Okay.
became easier. It became easier. But yeah, it was always hard in the early days.
Yeah, I remember those days as well. Although it's like I guess it's 18 here in Alberta, but still. No,
Yeah.
and yeah, like when you started the band before Sum 41, how did that, like, I guess what made you choose bass? Like when you started playing? Did you always like just start off there? Or did you try like guitar or drums first or anything like that?
No, it was my original instrument. And
Oh, okay.
what happened was, the guy I was talking about, Ryan, he's 2 years older. Him and my other friend Ian, they lived across the street. We lived in a court, and when we were about 13, for some reason they had guitars. Like I don't know if their parents bought them or it was a hand me down. I forget how they even acquired a guitar, but they both had guitars. And Matt, who went on to drum for Avril, he was the drummer in our elementary school band. So he was already kind of into drums.
No, okay.
And so all of a sudden, it became a thing in the summer of 1994 where it was like they were talking about starting a band because everyone was so into Nirvana and Sonic Youth and Dinosaur Jr., like the whole grunge explosion. And then I'm sitting there as one of their best friends, like, well, I want to be in the band. I didn't even play anything. And they're like, well, I guess there's like, I think there's bass guitar in some of these bands. And I was like, what the fuck is a bass? I didn't know what a bass was
Yeah, yeah.
because, at the time in the 90s, like the early 90s, there was no internet and there's nothing to like reference. And I knew that there was a three-piece Nirvana, and maybe one guy played four strings and one guy played six strings. But I'm 13 years old,
Yeah, you don't
and
know like the language, right?
I didn't know what anything was.
Yeah.
And so I just had to research. I bought a music magazine, and I was like, "Oh, that's a bass. Okay, I got to do that." And that's kind of, I just asked my mom if I could, for my birthday or something, if I could get a bass. If I could, there's a local music shop, and she was very nice about it. And we went up, and she got me a bass guitar for like $200. It was like the cheapest
Oh.
bass in the whole place, and it was black. It was an El Degas. I wish I still had it, but I don't.
I was gonna ask if you still had it.
I wish I did. I wish I did, but I had to like sell it to get another one, sell that to get another one, and
The whole
after
chain.
that,
Yeah.
after I got my first one, she was like, "You're on your own." you know, I had to
Now,
upgrade.
yeah, this is on you now.
I had to upgrade everything by myself. So that I was, I always say like I was basically forced into the bass.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm trying to think about like when we started a band back in the day too. It was yeah, like I played guitar, so it was like K guitar, and I knew drummers, but I didn't know bassists. And I remember I had like one best friend growing up, and he kind of like I showed him the music I was listening to, and like it was like you guys Blink, like all this pop punk stuff, and then he was like, yeah, I want to be in a band and stuff. And then like I was like, well, let's like do like a three-piece thing, like you could play bass. I remember him learning bass throughout like us just practicing and stuff, and it was fun memories, man. Like
Yeah, well, actually, it's in Ajax. There was quite a few bass players for some reason.
interesting.
There was no shortage of bass players. Like Sum 41 before me had like five bass players.
Oh really, before
Yeah.
you?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
wow.
It was like some of them only lasted like 2 weeks or even a month, but there was for some reason because there was a lot of bands. Like I said, like there was a lot of bands, and so there was bass players around.
I guess everyone's just crossing paths, right?
It's
Yeah.
just like you play it. We played. We did a lot of basement shows. We did a lot of like. There was another city, kind of like 20 minutes away called Oshawa, which is called Oshawa, and there was some venues there, so people played there. So yeah, it was like little places to play, and you just kind of played with each other. But yeah, so bass players were not scarce in Ajax for some odd reason.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's like yeah, even you just saying there's a lot of bands in like a small town, that's surprising.
But it seemed like there was a lot. Yeah, like it seemed like every person like there's a little because it was just like a little community, and you knew that who the rockers were because the way they dressed, and it seemed like there was quite a few bands.
Awesome. Yeah, no doubt. And like, cause yeah, doing basement shows and that. And I guess once you guys get to be like, I guess 19, or I'm not sure if maybe you were able to get in before, but then I'm assuming you start doing like bar shows and stuff, right? So how
Yeah,
was that? Was that kind of like an eye opening thing? Like, oh my God,
yeah.
like different crowd or?
The tricky thing about the bars when you're underage is like once you play, you got to leave.
Yeah, I remember doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah. As
which
soon as you're done, you got to get out of there.
yeah, it's like, and you're always opening for a band, and you always kind of want to watch that band because you're opening for them. And it's like,
Of
oh,
course.
I want to see the headliner, and it's rare that you could actually do that. But we played a lot of all ages shows. There wasn't a ton of bar shows that we played. It was if we played
Usually
like
all ages.
the Alma Combo in Toronto or um, random places in Toronto, they're normally all ages.
Mm.
And so yeah, we didn't run into that too much.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like, because I remember doing like, yeah, all ages a lot. I feel like that's really died down. Like it's a lot more 18 plus shows now. It's rare to see an all ages show, honestly. Like,
It's true.
especially locally, it's weird.
I think so because I think just the way the music industry now is that promoters, for one, they need the bar sales and they need the beer
Mm.
sale, need the alcohol sale. So yeah, it's tricky, and it's like it's a whole different time now. It's the music industry
Yeah.
is so different than the '90s and the '80s and all that kind of stuff. So
I was going to ask how you felt about that because obviously I feel like when you guys were like exploding there, even like me growing up listening to the music, I felt like that was prime. Like it was so, I don't know, it's just so memorable, like how the community was and everything. And I feel like it's really changed. Maybe it's with technology or whatever, and like you can just there's so much music out there now, but it's definitely different. Like it's
it's definitely different. I think you can use it to your advantage. I always go back to like when we used to have a camcorder on tour, and we used to film everything. But the problem was you had nowhere to put it, so we'd have to go to these like video houses and get the person to edit them, and then we'd make VHS tapes, and then we'd carry boxes of VHS tapes in the back of our van to be able to hand them out. It's like
yeah.
now YouTube,
Yeah,
it's just so
that's
much
fair.
that kind of in that regard, it's so much easier and way cheaper for bands. But yeah, in the way of streaming and stuff, I don't know. I do know that if you listen to music and you're an avid music listener and you're listening to it on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, it doesn't sound as good doing
Yeah.
it like that. So like bands spending so much time in studios to try and make their stuff sound sonically great. When you go just to like squash it into Spotify, doesn't there's no point anymore. But
Yeah.
for us, we still try and make it sound as good as possible. So there's like different things about the new music industry that's good and bad. Unfortunately, because of record sales, and unfortunately because of Spotify and all these streaming sites, because they don't pay bands, then it's just hard for new bands to make a living, and
Yeah.
that's unfortunate. And so that sucks.
Yeah.
And even for like established bands, so it's definitely changed. It's become very play live, and I tell this to young bands all the time. It's like you can try and make your following on Instagram and all these TikToks and stuff like that, but you still got to get out and play live, because
Oh
TikTok
yes.
and Spot and Instagram and all these sites, they're not going to pay you. They're not going to pay you. You're not going to make a living on that. You have to still go out and play live. You still have to have a good show. You still have to have great merch to be able to sell T-shirts. If you want to make a living being in a band, nothing has changed in the regard of you have to still be a good live band.
Yes.
I mean,
100%.
you could have a hit on TikTok. You could have a million followers on Instagram. You could go play live and be shit, and everyone's gonna be
Yeah.
like, well, "That band sucks." I
Yeah,
don't
that's all it
care if they have a
takes.
million followers; they suck because they can't
Yeah.
play live, and that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing. That's the similar thing to what it was in the '80s and '90s and '70s, whatever. You still have to be a good band live.
Yeah, I feel like maybe that's lost at the beginning with some new bands, just with how like TikTok and that is. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like if you're not good live, like what are you doing?
Yeah. So you
Like
you could have a hit on the radio, you could have a hit on TikTok, go play live, and that's going to tell everything.
no, 100%. Which is kind of scary like like so there's some good bands that new bands that I've discovered off of just like the way they promote their music on like Instagram or TikTok, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I dig this." And then it's like, "I hope they're good live." I haven't had to like go see one of them yet, cuz it's like, small bands like that, it's kind of rare that they do a lot of like, cross country touring or like coming up to Canada, that type of stuff depending. But yeah, if they ever do, I'm going 100% because I still love going to like all these shows. And
Yeah.
like I remember doing that young all the time too. Like, man, I remember anytime you guys were here in Edmonton, I was like, I'm going 100%.
Yeah, like it takes a long time to like be good live.
Oh,
You can't
100%.
just play 10 shows and be like, we have it dialed now. It takes hundreds of shows. I mean, when we started, And even up until All Killer, even Does Look Infected, until Does Look Infected, we had done 400 or 500 shows, but I feel like we got good at Does Look Infected. Like
Okay.
Half Hour Power, All Killer No Filler, we were decent, but
Yeah.
it took 500 shows to get really good. And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing with new bands is like, oh, I don't know, we've played like 25 shows. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, calm down. Yeah, like did all you guys kind of feel the same way come like Does It Look Infected, that you kind of like were dialed in for live then?
Yeah, I think so. And, because on All Killer, we did 300 shows in the 1 year, and we
That's
toured.
crazy.
Yeah, and we toured a ton on Half Hour Power. And the producer on All Killer was Jerry Finn, who was, legendary producer.
Legend.
Stuff. And so he just taught us a lot too about even just recording. And I think that translated into like being a better band. Learning, I think we all felt like we got to get our chops up a little bit here. And especially once Fat Lip and Into Deep broke, I think that was another wake up call for us. Was like, holy shit, we have like hits now. Now we have to be a good band.
Yeah, that's true.
So, it's one of those things where you just force yourself to get better. And I think Does Look Infected was a better album. And, just like technically as well.
100%.
I don't know about sonically. And, people will say I like All Killer better than Does Look Infected, or it Does Look Infected better than All Killer. But whatever, it's technically we were just better on Does Look Infected.
Yeah, I feel like All Killer No Filler, like that's a classic. You know what I mean? And then Does It Look Infected and Chuck, I feel like were huge high points for you guys. Those were like amazing albums. I wouldn't skip anything on those ones at all.
Yeah, I love All Killer, but I know where we were as a band, and I know that Derek was writing phenomenal songs because we were 19 and 20 years old. I mean,
it's crazy.
You'll never find it's rare to find a 19 or 20-year-old can write those kind of songs like Derek was writing. And that
you just have that gift at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like he touched on something that not a lot of people will ever do again. But as musicians and as a band, we definitely had to like pull it together and we did it and we made it happen. But come Does Look Infected, I think we grew into it and we got better.
Yeah, and I think the thing with that too, when that came out, because there was like a switch, right? Like it was just like Sum 41's like this pop punk band, and then Does It Look Infected? It was like this heavier side, and it was like, holy shit, what is this? You know what I mean? It's like you were one of the few bands that kind of did that, and just showed that you don't have to have always sound like this, which is cool.
Well, we were always into skate punk and heavy metal and heavy music. So I think we didn't want to redo the same album again. We rarely ever talked about trying to recreate the same album again. I don't even think we ever talked about that before. You see that through our discography because it's like so all over the place from like the way it all goes. It's like this album to this album, they just don't sound anything alike. Yeah. So I think we just like diversity, and we really didn't. At the time when All Killer came out, there was a lot of critics and other just people around thinking that possibly Sum 41 was going to be a flash in the pan, and it was like the flavor of the week type thing. And I think at our age in your early 20s, as much as you say like I don't listen to that now, I tune it out, it's hard to. And so I think we really, really wanted to make a statement with Does It Look Infected.
Yeah, and I think you guys did, because and the other thing you guys did well too was all your music videos. All your music videos were great. Like, was that fun for each video, kind of like figuring out what you wanted to do for those songs?
Well, yeah, Does Look Infected was definitely more serious and hard, but we were still idiots.
Yeah.
We were still young and immature, and so you kind of have to counteract if you're going to go from In Too Deep and Fat Lip and how quirky In Too Deep was into like a serious album, you kind of have to like counteract that with we don't take ourselves too seriously still, which we
Yeah.
did. Like we definitely didn't take ourselves too. We always took the music very serious, and that's what I think that got lost a little bit. Was Sum 41 always took we always we didn't make songs as jokes, as like we didn't, you know, there were comedy songs. A lot of
Yeah.
bands do that great. Bowling for Soup is
Oh
one
yeah.
band that make amazing songs in like
Yes.
tongue-in-cheek comedy. I fucking love that. Um,
Yeah.
our band didn't do that, and they're hilarious at it. We're just different bands. They're great at it, and we made more serious songs, but we also wanted to make very funny videos.
Yeah, of course.
Counteract that. We just want to show our personalities, and so we would make, you know, what we thought were serious punk or pop punk or alternative songs, and made videos that were entertaining.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And the one thing I enjoyed too with Does It Look Infected is you guys had the DVD that came out with it. That was great. Like the behind the scenes of you guys just touring and shit, doing stupid stuff. Oh, it was great.
That's I mean, that's going back to like the camcorder days.
Yeah, yeah. So you're just friggin' VHS tapes all over.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we have like, I think Derek has them all, like just little camcorder tapes everywhere.
Oh,
Like
really? Jesus.
hundreds.
Mementos, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, I'm curious because, you know, you guys, I'm assuming you probably recorded a bunch of songs even before like Half Hour, No Power, right? Like, you probably had demos and stuff like that. Do you guys still have them and still like listen to them sometimes from time to time?
They're still there. I haven't listened to them in a long time. I have CDs
Yeah, yeah.
kicking. I have a demo. I have a demo on my desk right now of a Sum 41 thing. Yeah, because it was all CDs and tapes back then.
That's right.
But yeah, they're around. I know Derek's a big. He keeps everything of ours. He has it all kind of. He probably has a cupboard full of that stuff, and I have a cupboard, smaller cupboard, for sure. Some keepsakes, some old like even like our videos. Like we would get sent video cuts, like edit one, and it would be on VHS, and we'd all have to like pop it into the bus, you know, the bus VHS player and look at it,
Yeah.
and then send notes back, and they'd have to mail us another VHS cut, you know, so different. And so I have like I have those kind of cuts. So like the second cut of In Too Deep, and like it's like an odd edit that we
Oh,
changed.
okay.
So yeah, I have some of that stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you said, now it's a little easier now. It's like they just send it to you, open up on your like phone.
Yeah, Dropbox or WeTransfer.
Yeah, a little less tedious to
Yeah,
friggin' like.
so much.
Yeah,
Internet
no
is good
shit.
for that.
Yeah, it's got its benefits for sure. And yeah, like, you know, you guys have a huge discography, and I was kind of curious, like for you, like out of all your albums, do you feel like there was one that was kind of like more underrated than the rest that maybe like didn't get as much love as it should have?
100%. Screaming Bloody Murder.
Oh, okay.
I don't think, to be honest, I don't think it had like a massive hit. Like I still don't think it was like going to be there's not one song where I thought should have been like a number one song or whatever. But the album as a whole is like, it is, if you listen to it from front to back, and we kind of created it that way to be able to listen to it as like just one right through. I think there's 14 songs on it or 13 songs on it. I still, when I listen to that album, I still feel the emotions that was going on at the time. And at the time is when Derek just got divorced from Avril, and we were a really like tight band. We were, I don't know, we were really close. So we lived together recording that album. We worked on that album very hard, and there's some great songs on it. And I think that album kind of gets I think it gets. I think there's people that is like that's their favorite album of ours, and which surprises me because it's like one of my favorite albums of ours. It's super dark and super heavy. Some of it doesn't sound like Sum 41 at all.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and that's why I like it. That's why I like it, because we really went off the deep end on that one. Almost like, not, I wouldn't say an experimental album, but we did experiment a lot on that album. There's a 12-minute song on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Not in the Green Day sense, but like just how three songs kind of went into each other. But yeah, that's one that I think if people want to listen to like a sleeper album of ours, Screaming Bloody Murder, that is my pick.
Yeah, for sure. I could see that, because yeah, I feel like when it came out, it kind of almost the same thing. Like, you didn't see too much marketing for it. It was kind of just like this low key thing that came out, and it was like you hear it, but you didn't see too much on it. You know what I mean?
I can tell you why.
So okay, great. Let's hear it.
So at the time, we were still on a major label, and that was our last album on a major label. So Island Def Jam, who signed us, and we did all those records through the years. The original team that we had that signed us were fucking amazing. Every single one of them, like, they understood the band. They left us alone. They let us just do whatever we wanted to do, and we would come to them and say, "Here's the record. Here's the video idea. Here's the pictures that we want to promote our record." They didn't say a word. They would just take it and be like, "Cool, we're going to promote this now." Later on, a new team came in. I mean, this is like 2011 at this point. So, 12 years after we signed, people had left, more people come in. They left, more people came in. No one was caring about us anymore. At the time in 2011, it was all about, and on the label, it was a lot of hip hop, a lot of pop music. The Killers were obviously big on it. Fall Out Boy was doing well, but Sum 41 as a rock band wasn't happening for them, especially with that album, because our style of music was not, radio wasn't playing it, MTV was no longer, they could care less about us. So when we made the record, it almost felt like they were just like, finish the record already, we'll put it out, so we could just put it out because it's our obligation to put it out. Just want to get it out there. And that's basically what they did. They just put it out there.
They just wanted to be done with it, kind of thing.
Yeah, they fucked us on that record in a way of just like, we don't care. We just have to put this out. So we are gonna put it out. Good luck.
That sucks. Yeah, I'd be curious to, like, yeah, if that wasn't the attitude, I'd be really curious to see the outcome of it. If there was like that love and attention to it, you know what I mean? It totally would have been different for sure.
Yeah, and like I say, like, I don't believe that there was like a number one hit on that. And that's not, I'm not slagging the songwriting or anything. I just think the record is great as a whole. Sure, maybe it didn't have a smash hit on it, but the songs are good. The songs are great. And a hit record to me doesn't necessarily mean there's radio hits on it. I think that's a hit record because the songs are great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, out of the album came a Grammy nominated song, right? So
yeah, true.
So, there's a win. And yeah, like, even like, I've been listening to a lot of you guys' stuff. Like, I obviously listened to Heaven and Hell when it came out too. And it's so weird because I know you guys like didn't go into it being like, when you're writing it, like, oh, this is the last album. You know what I mean? You wrote these songs, you had this idea, and then it was kind of afterwards, once Derek heard it, he, reached out to you guys about, ending it, which is crazy, because it definitely seems like you would listen to this and be like, wow, like, this is, you hear some like old Sum 41 stuff, like, and the heavy stuff, and it almost feels like, that was in mind of the album, even though it wasn't. It's just crazy, the timing with that.
What's funny is the way Derek writes his songs. Like, when he sends me a demo, I was like, he'll send me a demo. And it's like, this is a new song, and he'll say, and then I'll, make up some bass parts and send them back, and we'll go back and forth. Or sometimes someone will have an idea, like, what about changing this part or making this part longer or cutting that part out, whatever. Rarely are the lyrics finished.
Oh.
So he's a late lyric writer. Like he'll write lyrics after the point, or like on his demos, it sounds like he's just not singing anything. He's just singing the melody, but he's singing gibberish.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't get the sense like, if I listen to Heaven and Hell now and I hear songs like How the End Begins or just like certain songs like that, I'm like, oh, well, that's just telling me the end is coming. Like if I would have heard that song, like, there's songs like that where now I listen to, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's talking about the end of the band. But
that's funny.
Because the lyrics aren't finished at the demo phase, none of us would have thought that.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes some more sense.
Yeah, and the pop punk heavy thing. I just during the pandemic, we just had so much time. Like every band, everyone. 2 years. So we were just recording everything that was coming up. Like he would just send stuff, be like, "Here's an idea. Let's record this." We would record it remotely, and so we knew that the pop punk stuff wasn't going to go with the metal stuff. Like they were just so polar opposites. It was this very pop punk Sum 41 and this very heavy Sum 41. But then luckily we had enough songs because we recorded enough songs to make the double album. And we've always wanted to make a double album on Underclass Hero. And we kind of shied away from it at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like I don't know, kind of good timing for like the last album, I would say.
Totally.
Unfortunately, like, and I know, like, obviously, I feel like everyone's, knows what's going to happen. Everyone's cool with it. But like now that you've like done a bunch of tours, now you got Canada left here. Is it like more and more as you get closer to that like last Toronto show? Is it kind of like sinking in more?
It is now, yeah. It didn't at the beginning. Like people were asking me this, like we started in February or whatever, and even we did, Europe twice and US a couple times, and I never really felt like it was the end. Because it was like a whole daunting year of a lot of shows.
Yeah.
But now it does. Yeah, because there's 3 weeks left. It feels like the end is coming.
That's crazy.
It feels a little weird. Yeah, it feels a little weird, but I think it's going to feel more weird as Toronto comes because we're doing 2 shows in Toronto. As I dig into my guest list for Toronto, it feels more real.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fair. Yeah, that'll be one hell of a show though. Like I'm sure you guys have like that last show planned out pretty well for like your farewell. So
yeah,
good way to end it off too, right? Like in Toronto for you guys, that's a good way. That's a good place to just call it. Yeah,
we had to do Toronto because obviously we're from the area. Funny enough, I have my own radio show, and I just interviewed today. I interviewed Karina, who plays in NoFX.
Oh yeah.
And so NoFX ended, and so I was kind of grilling her on how she felt for the last NoFX show, and she told me, she gave me some good advice. She just said, like, try and be in the moment, try and be present. Everyone's gonna want to talk to you, and everyone's gonna want to like hang out and stuff. Just try and take it all in, because she's like, the night ended, and it was like, it was done. And she said, I couldn't even go get some coffee across like the dressing room just without people like, hey, trying to talk. And I was like, you're instantly stressing me out.
Yeah.
And so, but she gave me some good advice. And so I won't know how I feel till I get to the last show. But it's going to be nice having a lot of our friends and all my family and stuff like that. So I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, for sure. And like because obviously, Derek said like there's a lot of stuff he wanted to do, but with the band, it's harder to do it. After, you guys kind of talked about it, did the rest of you kind of have like a realization like that of just like, oh yeah, like there's like a lot of stuff I want to do that I definitely couldn't because of the time with the band?
I mean, we've been doing this since the 90s. So our lives have always revolved around Sum 41, and I'll never I've loved it the whole time. But of course, there's stuff that you just think like you could never do because your schedule will never permit that. And so, when he first told us about it, I was shocked and I was sad, and I personally didn't want it to end.
Yeah.
As the months went on, I started coming to the realization. I was like, oh, maybe this could be a little cool journey for my life. I can do other things now. Like I don't have to wait around for the schedule and do all these things. And to be honest with you, I'll never complain. I've loved being in this band. I will never complain being in this band. And if this band continued after this album, I'd be all for it. But now that it is ending, there is things that are popping into my head like, oh yeah, that's going to be cool to do, and that's going to be cool, and this I could do that and that and that and that and that. And so now I'm starting to come around to it for sure.
Okay, yeah. That definitely, obviously, for the rest of you, probably took some time to like, did you go through all the stages of grief then? Like denial, bargaining.
You know what? Because when he first told us, yeah, it was like a shock. But honestly, it happened quickly because him and I hopped on the phone, and I swear we were on the phone for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So once I finished that call with him and we talked it out, and it was a great talk, and he told me how he felt, and he told me why, and he told me how the year was going to, how he envisioned the end to be and how we were going to do it. I was like, I got off the phone feeling really good about it. And I was like, okay, this is a great way to end the band. We're going to do this world tour. It's going to be, we're going to go out with a bang. We're going to go out on the biggest thing, we're going to go out on our own terms. Like we're not forced to go out.
Yes.
Some bands, some bands have to stop. A lot of bands, most bands, I think, have to end because it's like either they hate each other and they don't want to do it together, like Oasis,
Yeah. Yeah.
or it becomes like this downhill slide where all of a sudden you were playing in front of thousands of people and now you're playing in front of 200 people and you're just like this, it's like it feels. I love playing in front of 200 people, but I could see how bands would just feel when they're just on this decline, being like, well, no one's coming to see us anymore. Maybe it's time to pack it in.
Yeah, true enough.
We didn't get to that point. Well, I mean, we have been to that point in our career, but we didn't get to that point now. We're doing it on our high, which actually feels nice.
That's a good way to go out for sure. 100%. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And like, my God, I could easily talk to you forever, man. So I'll ask you a few more questions here before I gotta let you go. But like, yeah, with your guys, like you've been playing for so friggin' long. Like, do you guys have a specific, like, do you have any pre-show rituals that you kind of do on the regular?
Yeah. I mean, they've changed through the years. What we still do and what we've always kind of done for the last 20 years is like a pre-show shot. And when Derek was drinking, we would do multiple of those.
Fair.
So since he's been sober, I still do one with Tom, but it's one. And I've stopped drinking as much for the show. I do one shot of tequila and that's it.
Okay. I was going to ask if you had like a beer or something that, like, I always do that to loosen up a little bit, right?
That's why I do the shot of tequila. But
yeah,
I do a shot of tequila and maybe have like a couple glasses of wine, and I'd go out kind of too more buzzed than I wanted to be most of the time. So I stopped that. So the one shot of tequila just breaks the edge, and I feel good. That's basically the only ritual. I mean, we do our vocal warm-ups. We change into our show clothes and stuff like that. We do the normal stuff, but there's nothing really that crazy. We don't pray or anything.
Yeah, huddle in or anything like that. No. Yeah, shot something though. You know what I mean?
Sometimes most of the time when we're on tour with other bands, they'll join us.
No, of course, yeah.
The opening band will come in. We'll all do it before we go to the stage, and that's kind of it's a nice way to like, get together with the opening bands too.
Oh yeah, that's a good little kind of let's get together, chat a bit, have a shot. Yeah, totally, loosen up. That's awesome. And then, so I seen recently, and I didn't know that you were a lover of Motown.
I
So
am.
that's interesting. That's kind of a little shocking thing. So was that like, has that always been a thing?
I would say it became a thing in my early 20s.
Oh, okay.
I kind of got into it. I don't know if that's late, but in my teen years, no. And then, yeah, for I don't know how or why. I remember my girlfriend who became my wife. We bought this like double out CD album. It was like Motown's Greatest Hits. It was a double album. It was just like a greatest hits. I believe I was like 22 or something at the time, and we wore
Okay.
that CD out. We played it all the time in the house. And now I have like I collect vinyl now. I've had for a couple of years, and I have tons of it now. And the weird thing is I've never really seen a proper Motown show. I've been to cover bands. Like there was this band in Toronto that would cover Motown every Wednesday, and I'd go to that. And I used to love that, but I'd never actually been to like a real Motown show. So when the Temptations and the Four Tops came through my city, I was like, I have to go, even though there's like two surviving members. That I don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah.
And it
Nice.
was great.
That's cool. Yeah, it's I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know if you could agree with me, but like get as you get older, I feel like when you're a teenager, you're stuck in like a very specific genre of music. And as you get older, you start to branch out or discover more, open up your mind.
Yeah, and I think it was Derek and Steve that kind of introduced me to Sly and the Family Stone, actually, even before that. And that was kind of during our like ecstasy days, because
Okay.
we would do ecstasy and dance around the house or wherever we were at clubs, after hours or whatever. And so I
Yeah.
think Sly and the Family Stone, that kind of set me on. I was like, oh, what else is out there? And then I discovered Motown, and the Four Tops are pretty much the top for me, though. Four
Okay,
Tops.
nice. Okay. And yeah, like okay, I'm curious about this. So, like obviously like, Derek he's sober now and all that stuff, but obviously, he said like as you guys were coming up, especially from the start, you guys would party a lot, all that kind of thing. Now, I'm assuming you guys have probably done shows hungover. How does that feel in front of like a bunch of people?
Fuck. You know what? I've done it recently.
Oh, okay.
um, some odd reason, and I don't know what it is, but if I'm deathly hungover, I try not to be, and I don't do very often. But
Yeah.
anymore, it doesn't feel very good at my age.
Fair.
But yeah, for some reason I play really well.
Oh, really?
Something about I don't know what it is. It's probably some kind of adrenaline thing. You sweat it out. I sweat more when I'm hungover.
Ah, okay.
I'm more engaged, and I'm almost more focused when I'm hungover, because I feel like I maybe in my mind I'm like have to concentrate more. But yeah, it sucks. I'd say it still sucks.
Still sucks. It almost sounds like it's almost like a hangover cure, though.
It is. The thing is, back in the early days, I think we played like that mostly every show.
Most
To
of the
be,
time.
to be honest with you, is we in our party years we were pretty much hungover every day. But a hangover when you're 24, 23 is not as bad as when you're 44.
Yeah, that's nothing in your 20s, man. Yeah, when you're older, it's like a 2-day recovery, man.
I was just out with one of my best friends, Ian from Billy Talent, for New Year's.
Yeah.
He gave me this like it's called Party Smart, and it's this pill. I feel like I'm doing a commercial right now, but he's like, you're supposed to take it on your first drink. And he's like, I've never heard of it before, and he's like, I swear by it now. They're $3 a pill. I'm like, fuck, that's expensive for like if you're getting a pack of
Yeah.
12 or 24. So I took it on New Year's, and I stayed up way too late, because the Bovine was open till 4, and I got home at like 5 a.m. I woke up the next day. I was just tired. I was like, fuck, I don't have a headache. So I literally that day I texted Ian. I'm like, send me the link. And so I bought 24 packs of this Party Smart stuff. And
Interesting.
it's all natural. Like it's all like vegetarian. It's all herbal, but it has these things in it that breaks down things that alcohol does to your liver. So if you drink a drink, I'm doing a commercial right now. You drink your first drink, you take the pill with it, and then you wake up. Then you can drink and drink and drink, and wake up the next day, and apparently you're supposed to feel pretty good. Ian swears by it.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like I got to be like, this episode is brought to you by. That's crazy. So like you just have it before you drink. That's it. Like right before you. Okay. Fuck, I'm gonna have to look that up, man.
Pretty smart.
Yeah, whoever came up with that, Jesus.
There's a shit going around. My other friend told me about it too. He's like, well, another whole other thing. He's like, I got this pill. It makes you a hangover cure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I don't believe you. Yeah.
This one, I'm gonna have to try it for myself. He swears by it, and I have to swear by it now because I bought 24 of them.
There you go. Yeah. Now, like, yeah, try it again. See if it actually does it twice in a row. You know.
We'll see.
And like, obviously, yeah, you guys ending in Toronto, that'll be a big one. But out of all the places you've played, is there like a city you guys are always so jacked to like go and play? And I'm not expecting you to say Edmonton. It's fine if you don't.
Edmonton has always been great. You know, we did the Shaw Conference Center so many times. Derek almost got arrested in Edmonton. That one time they protested our show.
Oh, I'm trying to remember when this was.
Shaw Conference Center. This was.
I was at every one. I'm trying to think about this.
2004 or 5.
Okay.
It was on Chuck, and the catering company from the Shaw Conference Center was on a strike, and I think they expected us to not play the show. We're on tour. You can't just skip a show. Like, you can't just like, well, the caterers don't want to play. We're going to fucking skip Edmonton. We can't do that. So we didn't. We were going to play the show. So they protested our show outside. They were calling us Scab 41, Scum 41, and all this stuff.
Oh, fuck.
So we went out and egged them. We went out and egged them and their cars. And the police came, and Derek and the videographer who we had at the time, Josh, they got thrown in the back of a cruiser, and they were red. You know, this cops were blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Obviously, they got let go. We played the show, but that was that was one time in Edmonton. But we played the Shaw Conference Center a bunch, and it's always been a great time. We've played. I don't think we've ever.
I was gonna say, I don't think you've ever done Rogers Place, have you?
No, it's way too big. But this is the first time.
This would be sweet.
We played some clubs in Edmonton, obviously. Yeah, I love Edmonton. But yeah, I think honestly, I've said this in so many other places, and people are like, "Oh yeah, that place again." But Japan is always my favorite, to be honest. Like,
and what is it about Japan?
I don't know. The culture I really love. I love walking around there. It's so different than Western culture in such a great way. Everyone's really respectful. Everything's clean. Everyone's really nice, and everyone's willing. Like, it'd be rare to see like a fight in Japan, even though there has been. Just a really cool culture. There's like stuff that you would never. There's like things and stuff you would never get over here that you get there, and the shows are. The fans over there are like none other. Like, as soon as you start playing, everyone just goes bonkers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, yeah, it's a really cool place. I love going there. I'm always like, as soon as I see that on the schedule, I'm so excited to always go. It's a long way. It's a long flight, but I'll do it because I love it.
Nice. Yeah, that must be pretty cool. Like, being a band from Canada, go and getting like so much love from like Japan.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, the funny thing is, like, some people that go to the shows over there, they don't speak English.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They don't really know what the songs are talking about, but they just love the music.
Love the music. Yeah. Isn't that what it's all about? Like, what it makes you feel, right? Like, man.
The energy and just the vibe, and it's really
100%. And then I'll leave you off with this question because I'm curious. It's always kind of just like a random one, but like, what is your Mount Rushmore of artists for you? It's not like a specific genre. It could just be whoever you.
Well, you know, I actually have 4, and I'm probably thinking about a tattoo. So I got a top 4.
Okay.
And no specific, no order, but The Clash, Elliott Smith, Rancid,
Oh yeah.
and T-Rex. Those are my
Oh,
top
okay.
four. Yeah.
Nice.
I
Good
know
picks.
they're all pretty much different from each other, but yeah, I just love them for different reasons, and they came into my life at different times. But I think if I'm sitting here at my age now, I can look back and be like, those are probably my top four favorite bands of all time.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny. Like, you can ask this question. Sometimes people have a real hard time trying to figure that out. And then there's obviously people like you where it's just like, oh, no, I know what they are.
Well, it is a hard question, and the only reason I could answer it quickly is because I've actually thought in the last 2 months about getting
Oh,
a tattoo of all four of them, but like I'm trying to figure out how to do it together, like where it's not just like I don't want their names, I don't want faces or anything. I just want to get my
gotcha.
favorite bands tattooed, and I've been thinking about that in the last couple of months, so that's why that's easy.
Okay. Well, there you
But
go. Nice.
I mean, there's so many favorites. Like, I love Metallica, I love Iron
Yeah.
Maiden, I love No Effects, I love Pennywise, and I love Bowie, and I love the Stones. So there's so many that I love. I
Oh,
even
of
love I
course.
love Bob Dylan's one of my favorites too.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could have a massive list, right? Awesome, buddy. Well, Cohen, yeah, thanks again for doing this, man. Like I know we've been trying to schedule this for a while, so having to actually do this was awesome. And yeah, like anyone listening to this in Canada, they're coming to you. If you don't have tickets, get fucking tickets. This is the last time you'll see Sum 41. And like, yeah, I don't know, whatever you want to plug, man, with the tour, like with your radio show, stuff like that, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know the date of the Edmonton show, but it's soon.
Soon.
Calgary too. 3 weeks in Canada. Yeah, I mean, I do have the radio show. Every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. It's the rock.fm, but it's live. Live on the air where you can't hear it ever again.
Ah,
The one I do on Adobe, you can go to adobe.com Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern time. That one airs on Mondays, but then it'll be up on the site as a podcast. So like if you
okay,
missed it,
sweet.
you can go listen to it again.
Freaking nice, man.
That's basically what I'm doing. That's it. And then I'm
Awesome,
gonna
man.
be hired some 41er.
That's so crazy. Awesome, man. Well, you know what? Thanks for all the friggin' great music and all the good times. And yeah, definitely everyone check them out if they come by you. Like last show, like I said, it's going to be one to remember, I would say.
So yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, buddy. This was a blast. Appreciate it.